So I'd like to go through some of the new developments that we've had on our product suite over this past year. Specifically, we're going to take a look at big data solutions that we developed. Danny's going to be coming on a little bit later, who is going to be talking about some of the non-big data solutions that have come to market over the past year that we've been working on. But first of all, I'd like to give you a little bit of a background as to how we think about these problems. So first, let's talk about some of our guiding principles of big data solutions. We've always thought about these solutions as requiring really four key pillars. A, we want to load them up with our intelligence. Effectively, we want to think about it being intelligence infused. We want to think about automation. That is how to make your life easier in doing these analytics. We want to make sure whatever we do, it's always compliance certified and checked with the appropriate standards. And we want to make sure that it is accessible from a variety of tools and for a variety of different purposes. So one of our first key pillars is that we want our results to be intelligence infused. Well, what do we mean by this? This means that we want to load up our estimates and our projections with all of the insights and analytical techniques that we have at our disposal. We're very accustomed to working with estimates of devices, with estimates of counts, but that's not enough. We want to think about population estimates, about how do you make this data speak to the population as a whole, not just the devices that we observe. And when we talk about big data, at the moment, we're really focusing on mobile data. When we do these population estimates, we also want to adjust for any biases that we can observe in the data. We know that there are going to be biases. For example, Francophone populations are less captured in the mobile data than the Anglophone populations. We know there are seasonal biases. We know there are temporal biases. We know there are even urbanity style biases on this. And when we do those population estimates, we're taking away all those biases. We're taking away the fact that some devices only ping 3 times a day, some devices ping 100 times a day. To, in other words, produce that pure insight of how many people actually went to this park, went to this Walmart, went to this tourism region. And to do so, we're also looking at integrating data sources. We've got world-class demographic and economic data sets at our disposal in-house. We look at control totals as other means of controlling back these estimates back to the totals and adjusting for any other unobserved biases that we see in the data. For automation, what we're really referring to here is the fact that we want to make the analysts' lives easy, both in-house and external clients. We want to have a roster of pre-built geofences, for example, so that you can get on with your life. You can think about immediately pulling up a Canadian Tire location, pulling up its geofence, and having a mobile analysis for the past week done within seconds. We don't want everything to be custom. At the same time, we know we need to leave custom geofences as an option. We know that some people think about a geofence as a target destination. It's not just the store, it's the plaza. Maybe it's the store plus the parking lot. We want to have that flexibility in there, and likewise to be able for you to repeat that analysis on a weekly basis. When we look at the pre-built geofences that we've got at our disposal, we've got tens of thousands of pre-built geofences already at our disposal. We're looking at doubling that over the next couple of weeks. And of course, we're just at the beginning. We anticipate having pre-built geofences for everything from parks to car dealerships to retail locations. You name it, it will be there. One of the guiding principles under automation as well is this idea that we want to have pre-built estimates where the calculation is somewhat complex. So for example, we're taking a look at how many nights travelers are spending in certain tourism regions. We want to be able to have pre-calculated out that trip log as opposed to having to rebuild it from the raw data each and every single time. So where the calculations are complex, we want it to be pre-built. And again, all this data we want to be updated in near real time. Generally speaking, we have got yesterday's result by today to a little bit of a degree. By tomorrow, absolutely. And this is one of the key bits of this data, in that you're able to actually go in and see the marketplace as it's changing. We can analyze the pandemic in real time. We can analyze the effect of marketing activities in near real time. When we think about compliance, we refer to this phrase of being compliance certified. That means that when we're thinking about this data, it is a phenomenal source of data, but there's a number of elements of trust that go on here, both of the providers of the data, in fact, the individual records that we see in the data, and as well as the users. We don't want to have any risk of re-identification of individuals. When we go through compliance, we are subject to 4 independent audits each year to make sure that our compliance standards are appropriate. We also observe a number of voluntary ad tech standards, which allow us to make sure that our results are pre-sanitized when we release them. When we pre-sanitize this, we also want to think about how do we produce results to clients and to analysts that they can use right out of the box. We want the compliance to be automated. Effectively, we want the results coming out of the system to be usable from the get-go, as opposed to the analyst always looking over their shoulder saying, is this okay? Yes, it's okay. We've already taken care of a number of the compliance, of course, subject to reason. And likewise, we've made sure that all of the data has been collected with proper consent structures in place. Accessible. Accessible refers to being able to execute on these problems from a variety of tools. We can both think about accessibility as being able to process all of these data sets from within Envision, and additionally, also outside Envision. Envision is great. You've got a great graphical user interface. You can point and click to your heart's content and get all of your results in seconds, in minutes. However, for data scientists who are used to working with Databricks and Python and other similar platforms, API access is a very convenient way of being able to make use of those queries. Effectively, we've loaded up the queries that you can do in Envision through API accessible tools so that you can get directly to the results without having to go through the rigmarole of always connecting onto a website and pulling down the results. And again, when we're developing the tools, we want to think about multi-purpose tools. The sense that you need to be able to do a one-off geofence, you need to be able to do a network analysis, you need to be able to do a repeated analysis week over week. We want the tools that are available at your disposal to be recyclable, to be usable from week on, and to be appropriate to your needs. With these 4 key pillars in mind, we've developed 4 new big data solutions over the past year. The first of which is Visitor View, and second of all, we had MobileScapes Envision, MobileScapes Plus, and about the same time we also released MobileScapes Out and About, and these 4 I'll go through individually. Visitor View takes a look at overnight visitors, trips, and nights within Canadian tourism regions. We've got about 84 Canadian tourism regions in Canada. We take a look at both those totals as well as the provincial totals and national totals. We're looking at both Americans traveling to Canada, staying in different regions, especially and specifically the overnight trips to Canada in these regions, as well as the Canadian overnight visitors to these regions. How we built this is a combination of using our mobile data, which of course we've already got access to. We've got demographic data and economic data. Again, this is our demostats and our PRIZM clusters and all of the other tools that we've taken for granted. And likewise, our control totals. Control totals can come from things like Stats Canada, from the Canadian Border Control Agency, for getting a total number that adjusts whatever biases that we cannot adjust for using the demographic data and the temporal variation to capture up that unbiased total for Visitor View. So with Visitor View, this is a wonderful tool for allowing tourism providers to better understand who are visiting their regions, and especially insightful during this pandemic. MobileScapes Envision. We've had this around for a number of years, this idea that you can go into Envision, put up a geofence, and by geofence we refer to a polygon and a temporal extent, and be able to figure out who went to that geofence. Effectively, we treat it as a proxy for the old loyalty card data. MobileScapes Envision we've had around for a number of years, but we've really done almost a re-release of this product over the past year. Over the past year, we've integrated multiple data providers, as opposed to previously where it was only a singular data provider, partly to build up that depth of observation and devices to allow you to produce reliable insights. In addition, one of the things this allows us to do is to adjust for biases. It's allowed us to correct it and estimate population totals. So now in MobileScapes Envision, we're now producing population-weighted visits and visitors to geofences. And these geofences, as mentioned before, they can either be your own geofences that you've hand-drawn within Envision or submitted to Envision, or otherwise selected from our list of geofences available at your disposal. This is really upping the game in MobileScapes in that we're not just thinking about how many devices went to a store, or how many devices went to a park, or devices did whatever. It's now that we're talking about population. And at the end of the day, population spends money. Population consumes activities. MobileScapes Plus is a slight variation on MobileScapes Envision. In this case, MobileScapes Envision is delivered via an API query. So that is, you can be working your favorite data science toolkit, whether that's, say, for example, Databricks. You can submit an API request to the raw data and actually pull out the insights from our API access. So again, everything that you're used to getting in MobileScapes Envision, for example, the population-weighted estimates, the compliance certifications, all the other elements that have been taken care of in Envision, you can now access directly via API. This saves a lot of point and clicks for the data scientists, and that you can build in these APIs directly into your code. And finally, we've got another new product to announce this year in the Big Data suite, which is MobileScapes Out and About. So MobileScapes Out and About was developed specifically with the pandemic in mind. It focuses on the movement patterns of populations within neighborhoods, both in Canada and the US. This differs from MobileScapes Envision and MobileScapes Plus in that rather than looking at a specific destination in mind, it's looking at a specific origin in mind. It's about the neighborhood, not about the destination. So when we developed this, one of the big questions of the day was who is actually leaving home? Which neighborhoods do we see the populations actually leaving their home neighborhood? And this was very pertinent when we had the lockdown situation, is pertinent today, hopefully will not be pertinent in the future, but it is and remains unfortunately a big question. Similarly, we want to take a look at this neighborhood and we want to figure out when is the population leaving home. They may only be traveling during the daytimes or out participating in public life in the daytimes, no longer in the evenings. And this allows retailers to get a better sense of when are their customers active. We can also take a look at these neighborhoods, both in Canada and the US, and determine when they do leave home, what is the duration of that travel. For example, are they going out for just a quick trip to a grocery store? Are they actually going out for a day, or actually are they just going out to the office? Similar to that, we can take a look at the distance that they travel. We can figure out effectively how far these populations roam during the day. And it's not so much a question about how far do they roam, but rather how little do they roam. And the question about that, for example, from the start of the crisis, what is the convenience aspect to their shopping behaviors? Is convenience got a higher premium on than it does previously? Finally, we can take a look at whether or not these whether these people leaving this neighborhood are commuting to a place of work during the day, whether they're taking public transit. At the moment, we've only got heavy transit, but we're looking at expanding it. We can take a look at whether they're being involved in bricks and mortar retail, and also what is their usage of green spaces in public parks. And so with MobileScapes Out and About, we're not really looking at the destination in mind, but rather, is the population active? So with those four key strategic pillars in mind, as we develop these products, this idea that the results in our solutions need to be intelligence infused, accessible, automated, and compliance certified, we've developed four brand new big data solutions for this past year. First of which was Visitor View, taking a look at visitors and overnight visitors in particular to Canadian destinations, both from the US and from Canada. We've got MobileScapes Envision, which was a relaunch of our previously existing product, that now we can take a look at the population-weighted visitors and visits to these destinations. And likewise, on the back end, we've increased the volume of data to allow you to do much more detailed analysis. MobileScapes Plus, like MobileScapes Envision, now allows you to do these queries via API calls for the data science and data engineer applications. And finally, we've got MobileScapes Out and About, which takes a look at the movement patterns of the residents within Canadian and American neighborhoods. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Danny Heuman, who's going to be talking about some of the other new products and solutions that we've developed over the past year.
Hi, I'm Danny Heuman, Chief Analytics Officer at Environics Analytics. I'm excited to spend the next little while highlighting several new products that we released in 2020. This past year, we've announced a new, updated PRIZM segmentation system. Just recently, we released Wealth Trends, an extension to our well-adopted WealthScapes financial product. Vividata Gender provides more detail on over 4,000 variables broken out by males and females. We have 3 new vulnerability indices we named Financial, Social, and Frailty to identify populations at risk. And finally, Shopper Choice, a new survey-based product describing shoppers' decisions regarding health and wellness products and what motivates people to purchase. So let's begin with PRIZM. Canada continues to change and evolve. According to Statistics Canada, Canada reached 38 million people as of July 1st this year. In general, we've seen shifts and changes in neighborhood formation and demographic composition in the order of every 10 years, or every second census. However, with the voluntary nature of the census and National Household Survey of 2011, and the return to a proper census that was mandatory in 2016, we saw changes to Canada that we felt needed to be captured in a new PRIZM system. The purpose of PRIZM is to organize neighborhoods using the best sources, and we partner with the best of breed data partners in Canada. Demographic data come from the census and EA's 2020 demo stats. Psychographic data come from social values, produced by our sister firm Environics Research. We sprinkle financial data from Equifax and geographic data to build our proximity to cities and urbanity concepts come from TomTom. We take all these data and build a system to classify all neighborhoods in Canada. We then link and evaluate these data using behavioral data capturing shopping, leisure, media consumption, and motivators for how and where we choose to live, shop, and go about our daily lives. So the new updated PRIZM has 67 segments capturing all aspects of Canadian life. All 750,000 residential postal codes have been assigned segments. Nearly all new segments have new names and write-ups. Of course, we still have affluent families in urban areas. We have young millennials in high-rises too. There are a large number of town and rural segments describing life in many parts of Canada. Here are some more highlights. There are 14 segments that are Francophone, the population that speak primarily French at home. 14 segments across all income levels and can be found in all 5 urbanity classes. We have 19 diverse segments. There still exist segments that describe the Asian and South Asian populations. And there are segments that now capture the increasing diversity of Canada's mid-size and large cities beyond the big cities of Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. 2 of the segments are both Francophone and diverse, with large populations of immigrants from countries like Syria, Haiti, and Vietnam. One of the big changes that we've seen is the emergence of what we call the urban fringe. This urban fringe, found only in the major cities of Canada, is located between the downtown core and suburbia. Even though it's found in few large cities, the behaviors of these households, how they live, the house prices, their incomes, and what they do is different. The 9 segments here spend a lot of money, and they capture a different kind of contemporary urban lifestyle. Once consisting of large families, the children have moved out, leaving empty nesters and some young up-and-comers. These maps illustrate where the urban fringe can be found. Urban is colored in red, followed by urban fringe in yellow, and suburban in orange. In total, 12% of Canadian households are located in this urban fringe geography. Now here's a map showing the top 6 segments in the Vancouver CMA. We see 3 of the 4 Asian segments in the top 6. Diverse and Determined and South Asian Society are also high in diversity. Eat, Play, Love, segment 12, are diverse young millennials living in the downtown core. Wealth Trends is one of several new products that we've developed to help understand the impact of COVID-19 on Canadians. Let's have a look at this data set. Our Wealthscapes variables can be broken down into 6 major dimensions that, when tallied, comprise household net worth. We are able to get a clear picture of the Canadian financial landscape before the market and behavior shifts that occurred as a result of COVID. With all of the major indices showing non-trivial growth, it is not a surprise that we saw average Canadian net worth on the rise. These are some of the highlights from our 2020 Wealthscapes. The rebounding equity market contributed to the growth in investments. Similarly, the strong performance in fixed income markets resulted in an increase in pension values. We saw a minor increase in real estate values, and mortgage debt has increased too. More Canadians are entering the real estate market and deciding to purchase and not rent given the low interest rates. COVID-19 hit the world back in March, and the impacts were immediate. Many businesses shut down or changed their daily operations due to government guidelines and imposed restrictions. It became clear that Canadian lives would be impacted, and, as it relates to Wealthscapes, household balance sheets would be impacted too. We began the development of Wealth Trends almost immediately as a means to help institutions better understand how market fluctuations and policy changes would impact Canadians. Wealth Trends is derived off of Wealthscapes and provides quarterly updates to 20 key statistics at the neighborhood level. The product was created with the most up-to-date data that captures the impacts of the pandemic and controlled to authoritative control totals. It also captures changes in employment stats based on reviewing monthly Canadian labor force statistics. Almost immediately after the pandemic was declared in March, stock markets around the world saw a sharp decline. Canadian households experienced significant losses in their liquid assets during the first quarter. However, we saw the equity market begin to rebound early in the second quarter, making up for some of the losses. Naturally, the fixed income market was less impacted by all of the rapid change and saw a notable 10.4% increase relative to the start of the year. Also noteworthy is the increase in the real estate market, up by 4.2% in the first 6 months of 2020. Wellscapes measures end-of-year statistics, so our current Wellscapes reflects a December 31st, 2019 valuation and is referred to as Q4 in this chart. Here we see quarter-over-quarter change in average Canadian household balance sheets. Most notable is the 4.7% drop in average net worth in the first quarter, followed by the 7.4% rebound in the second quarter. This growth actually exceeds the decline and left Canadians with an average increase in net worth of 2.4% in the first half of the year. This increase can be largely attributed to a decrease in consumer debt and an increase in average real estate values. Wealth Trends is available at the dissemination area level. Here are some aggregations to provinces and select major cities in Canada. Most impacted by the net decrease in equities were Alberta, Saskatchewan, and parts of the north, which all wrapped up the second quarter with lower average net worth values per household in the start of the year. Looking at Canada's major cities, Toronto, Ottawa, Southwestern Ontario, and Montreal have seen the most growth and are entering the back end of the year better off than they started, despite the economic challenges stemming from the pandemic. The western cities of Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, and Regina, and St. John's, Newfoundland in the east were hit hardest by the uncertainties of 2020. These cities all experienced a decline in their average net worth due to below average growth in liquid assets and declining real estate markets. The continued weakness in oil prices hasn't helped. Through wealth trends, we can look at the shift of several of the 6 dimensions of net worth I showed earlier. We can see that changes in average net worth are closely linked to changes in real estate values. In each of the areas, we are seeing significant growth in real estate. We are also seeing the largest increases in net worth. Let's move on. Vividata is a large media survey of nearly 35,000 respondents with over 4,000 variables capturing print readership, non-print media exposure, product usage, and lifestyles. We have offered this survey for years, and for the first time, we have broken out the responses by gender at the postal code level. We can now look at the differences between men and women. Here's a comparison of using 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner between females, seen on the left, and males on the right in the city of Toronto. Broken out by PRIZM, we can see significant differences between the upscale urban and suburban segments at the top of the profile. For women, they choose to use specialized shampoos and conditioners as the indices are very low, way off to the left. Men are open to using the shampoo-conditioner combo, with indices hovering around 100. Below, toward the bottom of the profile, you will see a significant difference with the PRIZM segment came from away. Nearly 28% of women choose to use the shampoo-conditioner combo with an index of 172, while the men in this segment are at 16% with an index of 103. These are some of the significant differences we see when breaking out the data by gender. As a part of our recovery products, we created 3 indices of vulnerability. We focused on several different themes: financial, social, and frailty. The indices are available at the neighborhood level and are the results of combining several data sets and creating a multi-dimensional score to reflect how at risk each neighborhood is. The Financial Vulnerability Index looks at a range of household financial indicators to score how precarious a typical household's finances are at the neighborhood level. The Social Vulnerability Index looks at Canadians who may be challenged during the post-pandemic due to mental health issues and limited social networks. Governments and social service agencies understand that some Canadians will inevitably have difficulty coping. The Frailty Index identifies Canadians more likely to have difficulty going about day-to-day activities in their communities due to their age, physical limitations, or health. The data are available at the dissemination area level for the entire country. An index of 100 is the national average. Anything above 100 has a higher than average risk. The Financial Vulnerability Index is calculated by weighting variables across multiple Environics analytics databases, Wealthscapes, household spend, and liquid assets. Understanding the kinds of populations most likely to be in trouble at the local level allows financial service providers, utilities, and governments to respond with more effectively designed initiatives tailored to these population needs. In this case, Northern Ontario has an index value of 13% or higher than the average on the financial index, indicating that there is likely lower income, higher levels of debt, and less savings, placing them at a higher risk than the rest of Canada. The same data can be used to understand which PRIZM segments are most at risk, and by using Envision, communities can be ranked and identified that have the highest concentrations of those segments. The Social Vulnerability Index is calculated by weighting variables across multiple Environics analytics databases, namely demostats, community life, community health, and social values. We've placed emphasis on Canadians who are socially separated from family and friends, and there is a greater chance that they've identified themselves as having fair or poor mental health. A few PRIZM segments are at risk, such as newcomers to the country who may not have fully settled in the country and may not feel attached to their local community or feel comfortable asking for favors from their neighbors, or older folks who may have few friends or relatives living nearby. The Frailty Index is calculated by weighting the variables from Environics analytics databases, community health, and demostats. Frailty is largely a picture of seniors populations across Canada, with those having a higher disease prevalence scoring more strongly on the index. Understanding the population that an organization is trying to serve is critical in designing services and communication that will resonate. Here's a map of the City of Toronto showing the neighborhoods with the greatest risk of scoring high on the Frailty Index. As you saw in the list of variables used, we haven't focused solely on age, as there are variables that capture self-perceived health, activity levels, and several ailments that affect overall health. Finally, there's shopper choice. In partnership with Nielsen, we've taken 5 of their surveys and created a data set that provides insights of shopping behaviors and attitudes of Canadians. With more than 1,200 variables and available at the postcode level, you will gain a deeper understanding of shoppers' decisions regarding health and wellness products, whether people cook meals at home or prefer to purchase ready-to-eat meals, or the path to purchase from online research to online ordering and having shipped to home or picking up in store. Both retailers and manufacturers could be interested in this product. From a retailer perspective, there's a possibility to target and customize offers to the in-store customer different from those who shop online. For the manufacturer, product development could be further understood by understanding interest in organic foods, low sodium, or the effort people are willing to put into preparing or cooking their meals. Shopper choice offers insights into how Canadians are shopping smarter and what types of products they research and purchase. Whether they are focused on nutrition, saving money, helping the environment, or saving time, Canadians can select products and services using a combination of online and offline resources to shape their daily lives. Here we've taken the social value, effort for health, and correlated the variables from shopper choice to see what actions or motivations likely drive their interest in living a healthy lifestyle. As you can see, there's an interest in purchasing ready-to-eat meals if there are healthy options. They are willing to pay more for organic foods and prefer high protein. In addition, they make homemade smoothies and believe that online shopping takes less time than going to a store as they lead busy lives. Thank you for your time and interest in our newest products. Enjoy the rest of the conference.